Consuelo Sr. is a mental health clinician, adjunct professor, international consultant, Christian life coach, intimacy coach, transformational speaker. Ms. Senior has 26 years of experience working in the field of neurodevelopmental disabilities and mental health. Ms. Senior brings vast experience from the following areas within the field: psychotherapist, international consultant, staff trainer, curriculum and program developer, case manager, administrator, and conference speaker. She has trained and developed curricula for a wide range of topics of importance to the disability field and is certified in areas of sexuality, aging, grief, loss, dual diagnosis, mental health, dementia, and Alzheimer's. In addition, she has trained extensively in professional development, leadership, effective teaching, supporting people with profound disabilities and complex needs, diversity, and inclusion and emotional intelligence. Ms. Senior practices both group and individual psychotherapy. She is also an adjunct professor at the City College of New York. Ms. Senior has presented at numerous conferences and workshops and has consulted nationally and internationally, the most recent in South Korea and Saudi Arabia. Ms. Senior has presented at webinars, radio programs, and panel discussions as an expert mental health clinician, as well as sexualist expert. Ms. Senior is an agency representative to the United Nations Economic and Social Council and has presented at UN side events in the US and South Korea. Ms. Senior is published in the Autism Spectrum News. She's also a great contributor to many, many more things. Let's welcome Miss Consuelo Senior to Pathways to Success.
Good night. Welcome to Pathway to Success. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Hunter, and we have the beautiful, the well accomplished Miss Consuelo Amando on our program tonight. We want to apologize again to our viewers for the late start because of technical difficulties. But Consuelo, welcome to our platform.
Thank you so very much. I'm excited to be here.
So can you share some of the most impactful experiences from your 26 years of work in neurodevelopmental disabilities and mental health?
Oh, wow. There have been so many things. Some of the most impactful ones are seeing people with intellectual and disability and developmental disabilities reaching goals they never thought they could ever reach, doing things they never thought they could do. Seeing the look on parents' faces when they see their adult loved ones doing independent things, having hobbies, communicating, um, speaking to, training staff and just seeing them understanding better how to help somebody that they were there to help, or even, speaking overseas when I'm able to help and realize that we're all the same. We may speak different languages and may look differently, but just helping somebody to understand how to help someone else, because most of the people who I'm helping or I'm training or I'm teaching are people in the helping profession, or even teaching, and just seeing when students come alive with a knowledge and it's connecting in their lives and they're able to implement it in their lives. That's been awesome.
That's awesome. I recognize you have a beautiful accent. Where were you born and where were you educated?
I was born in the exotic, beautiful island of Jamaica, West Indies.
Yeah,
I went
I
in
thought
Great
so.
in Grange Hill, I was told. At age of 3, I went to live in Kingston with my great grandfather. I went to Don Robin Primary. I went to the Queen's School and
Beautiful
the
school.
most audacious Michael College, the
Oh,
best college
yes,
in the entire
Michael
world.
College. I'm sure there's a lot of Michaelians watching and just celebrating with you. I think you're the first Michaelian we have had on the program since we've been
Ah,
doing Pathway to Success. If I recollect, maybe the producers will correct me if I made a mistake. But you have a diverse range of roles in the field. Could you describe how you experience, how's your experience as a psychotherapist, international? You wear so many hats, international consultant, curriculum developer have impacted your current work?
As a curriculum developer, it is awesome. It's always being on the cutting edge, trying to find, okay, this is working. What else can we do, right? And understanding how people learn. As a psychotherapist, I understood very early that I am blessed with the opportunity to impact how a person thinks, which means it impacts how they feel, which then means it impacts what they do. And that doing can become a habit, which impacts their character. So, in that, just realizing that even that curriculum, that knowledge that I have, I can bring to people with disabilities, with their families, with the people who are supporting them, and then taking it outside the United States. It's an awesome feeling. When I was in Seoul, Korea, where I've been a few times, I've been in Saudi Arabia about 4 times, and I'm standing there and I'm like, this little Black girl from Jamaica is here to impart knowledge to these people. And it is just amazing. And I feel blessed, and I utilize all the knowledge that I've garnered over the field as a DSP in the classroom, as a manager, as a quality person, and then as a clinician. They all come together to help to support someone's life.
Congratulations on the different platforms internationally that you've gone to speak. I'm so proud of you as a fellow Jamaican. I'm not from I didn't went to Michael Teachers College, but but for those who don't understand what's a psychotherapist, could you implore explain what does a psychotherapist do for those who don't understand? They may have heard the word, but they don't understand what a person does.
Sure. A psychotherapist is like a talk therapist, right? A lot of times people think that the therapist tells you what to do, you bring them their problems and you fix it, and that's not so. We are trained clinicians who are trained to help you to sort through stuff that's happening. Often it is something that's impacting your life. I'm in this cycle and I can't get over it. I'm in this deep grief and I can't get out of it. There is something, I'm hearing different things. So there may be a mental illness such as depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. And what those things do is that they distort thoughts, and our thoughts impact our actions and everything else. So a therapist is someone who does not give you the answers. What we help you to do is to find the answers within you. So we'll ask questions. We'll take you back to where the trauma may have been. So oftentimes we're going to take you back and help you to sort through where trauma could have happened, and therefore help you to fix that or address it and give you some coping skills to help you to live a full, fabulous life as best as you can, as authentic as you can.
Now, you mentioned something about hearing voices. I think I was saying so. Oh, we Jamaicans love to laugh. It's amazing. But I said something today about that shooter in a nice platform that when a person starts hearing voices, it's an indication that there's some mental issue going on. When you have you ever had to dealt with someone who's telling they're hearing three, four voices, and how do you help that person to get around that? Do you use medication also? Is it
Well,
definitely that, or just
it's a combination of things. There is no one thing that helps, right? So medication therapy is one therapy, but medication alone doesn't help. Talk therapy is also there. Often it may be because there's so many different diagnoses that can lead to auditory hallucination. It could be schizophrenia. Now we know that if it's schizophrenia, the reason that the person is there is because there has been a trauma in their lives, and is to the point where this world, they don't feel safe in this world, so they create an alternative reality, and they're existing in that alternative reality. So there are things there that are not the same as in this world, but they're not safe here. So what they're hearing, they're having a conversation in that alternative reality. So a lot of times, and it takes a while, it's helping them to feel safe enough in this world so they can exist in this world, so we can close off that alternative world.
And so this what he said is very profound. So we I don't want to really discuss the shooter that in Maine, but it was said that he was hearing so many voices. So apparently he wasn't feeling that safe in this world.
No, chances are there was some trauma. He could have, it's trauma that breaks the psyche, right? We go through different stages in life, and we're supposed to develop in a particular way. And when there are things that come to destroy that, such as, you know, molestation from an early age, abuse from an early age, poverty, effects of poverty. There's so many things, even him possibly being on some type of drug as well that can alter reality. So there's so many different things that could come together that is causing that he could have somebody telling him that if he doesn't shoot, if he doesn't do this, then he's gonna die, or he's saving the world. He may think he's saving the world because that's what the voices are telling him. There could be so many different things, but what it does say is that he was troubled and he needed help.
Wow, you're so qualified, so much. You have achieved so much and so well learned. You're also certified in various areas, including sexuality. Another area is aging, grief, and loss. We got to go back to the aging section. I'm in my 50s. And I just look at it and say, oh my God, man, we need to go back. We're going to discuss that one a little bit. And also dual diagnosis, mental health. How has this diverse certification influenced your approach to mental health care and your lifestyle?
Well, what it does is that it allows me to see truly the person as a whole person, right? Because sometimes it may seem as if the issue is in someone's attitude when we haven't looked at the fact of where are they in their natural development. Is it an age thing, right? Are they aging? Are there issues, social sexual issues that are happening? There's so many aspects of us as people. We're not one dimensional. So what that allows me to do is to be able to see the person as a whole person who's sitting before me. So I'm able to look through these different lenses.
Another thing I would like to ask, because I've always asked this when I meet anyone in mental health. How do you, as a very tricky question now, many of the persons I've met that have been in mental health, sometimes they find themselves also being affected by the job they do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some of them I've known persons who start giving off signs, like some of those issues that they have to deal with in their job also start affecting the individual themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever experienced any of that sort of thing with yourself? But I'm sure you would come and speak. I would have to ask you that off the air. But have you ever seen anyone that does your type of work start coming because they did so many mental issues? They start also becoming mental.
You know what it is? And what you're describing is often getting burnt out,
Mm-hmm.
taking the work home. I
Yeah.
myself, as a person without mental health, has gone through, issues of depression. I went through a period of time when I was depressed. But as a therapist, I am very thankful that I'm not burnt out. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Um, but self-care is important. Having a therapist yourself is important. And I have to tell you that being a woman of faith has been what has kept me, a great deal of what has kept me praying, talking to God. There was a time in my life when I needed to figure out what did God want me to do. And when I went to seminary, I really saw that coming together, which was the intersection of mental health and faith. And it's self-care. It's not easy to leave it alone. But what I've done is when there's a case that's sitting heavy on me, I give it to God. I pray about it, and release it because I know that it can stay and poison me. So it's what we're taught, but it's not always what we practice. But having a therapist yourself who do you support yourself around? I have a prayer group that meets on Sundays. I have a group of people who I can go to and I can cry to, and we can talk about things, and that's important.
I hope that there are pastors watching, because I guess some of the pastors need somebody like you that they can, they can
Listen, in
go to.
seminary, one of my girlfriends, actually, that was her, that was what she wrote. We both wrote on mental health, but that's what she spoke about, because we were looking at the fact of so many pastors who were committing suicide, and how many pastors were, because who does the pastor talk to? But anybody who is taking in a lot of stuff, you have to have a a solid group around you. It doesn't have to be 20 people, but you got to have somebody to talk to. And you have to have, I remember a pastor, calling me up when I was in seminary, and that's what the Lord showed me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm holding this space. But then God has created people to hold that space. I
Right.
believe pastors just need to find them.
That's very powerful. Imagine someone like a scenario, someone speaking to themselves. Like they say, "Are you going to Juve?" And they respond back to themselves, say, "Yes, I'm going. I'm wearing this color." And then they end up saying to themselves, "Why would I wear this color to Juve?"
Listen, self-talk. And I know we've always said it, that if you're talking to yourself, you're crazy. That is not true.
That's not
Self,
true.
no, it's
Hold
not
on,
true.
you're saying that's not true.
It's not true.
So if you're talking to yourself and then you answer back yourself, you're not crazy?
No,
What?
no,
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
Consuelo?
I'm
What?
not telling you the truth.
Tell me the truth. You tell me the Jamaican truth.
Yes.
I've always
Listen,
thought that way.
I know people have said it, because what they've seen is people with mental illness who are doing that talk, and they think that that means that it's a mental health issue. No, it's not. In fact, self-talk is a is a learning technique, right? When you find people on the autism spectrum, even, let's not say that. Let's say you're driving somewhere,
Right,
and you all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, GPS going the wrong way, right? You turn off the GPS, you turn down the music, and you're like, okay, I need to go right, this right, and then I think I need to. You're doing self-talk.
right,
So there's nothing wrong with self-talk. In fact, sometimes it's good. These days, we keep too many things in our heads, and our brains were not created to store things. Our brains were created to analyze things. What happens that when the brain can't manage it, the brain shoves it to the side, right? And then when you least expect it, 5 years later, 10 years later, it comes out when you, because it's now amassed, and you may have a psychotic break or something, but we're not supposed to. The brain fools us into thinking that we've dealt with it, and we haven't dealt with it, because it comes out when we least expect it. So we need to, especially now, not just leave things in our minds. That's why journaling is so good.
right,
Writing things down, documenting things, because you got to take it out your head, put it in black and white, walk away from it, then come back to it so you can analytically look at it.
right. I can be very mischievous, right? Imagine somebody documenting they went into a 7-Eleven and they robbed this and that and left it right there, and somebody else finding it and reported them to the police.
And you know what? Then that's what it should be then. Then they should be
That's another thing we could look at. But um, in your role, and I'm so proud of you, in your role as an adjunct professor at City College of New York, I guess I need to come there and do a course there. What courses do you teach, and how do you connect your academic work with your practical experience?
I teach disability courses and social welfare courses. So I teach disability and the developmental lifespan. I teach disability and the family life cycle, disability from a global perspective, disability in a personal lens, and then I teach social policy and social welfare. Um, it works so very well, because I'm able to take my experience of working with people with intellectual and developmental disability, into the classroom, helping them to see things. One of the things that I always do with my students is to help them to see that disability can happen to anybody at any time. Any of us can walk outside and something falls on our head and we have a traumatic brain injury. You have a disability. You have a cognitive disability. that disability is a lived experience, that there are people living among us that we may not even know have a disability because it's an invisible disability. And the whole concept of someone with diabetes has a disability, somebody with high blood pressure has a disability. So it's also taking the stigma out of disability. Disability only means that you need some supports in a different way, but we all need supports, right? We all don't have skills in every single way. We need supports with buying a house. We need support. We can't do surgery on ourselves. So we all need some types of supports. We just seem to think that this concept of normal, which I don't know what that is, because normal is not, especially these days, right? But that people are different and difference is cool.
That's good. You went to South Korea and Saudi Arabia. What was that like? Tell me, how did they receive you, and how did you how you got connected to go there, especially South Korea and Saudi Arabia?
This is through my job. So I work with an organization, a non-profit organization. I've been around for over 60 years. I'm the assistant director of YI Knowledge there, which is our training department. And I am the trainer nationally and internationally for the agency. And believe it or not, the first time we went, they came to New York, did a tour, and they liked the agency. And then they wanted us to do a little bit of sexuality for people with IDD, a little bit of advocacy. I presented at a UN summit for South Korea there. And then the next time I went back, I did 2 full days of training on social sexual education, which was amazing because I thought, they had to see all my content before I went. I was for sure they were going to block some of them, and they didn't. I was the only, as far as I could see, I was the only person who looked like me. Once I got onto the airport, yes, the only person who looked like me for the entire time that I was there, almost a week each time, I did not see another person of color. And I'll tell you this, we were in a restaurant and waiting to pay. And one of the women came over and rubbed my hand, the back of my hand, and smiled and walked away. So I said, I looked at her, and what I wanted to say is, yeah, it doesn't come off. It feels the same as yours, but literally touched me,
Right.
as if, and in my mind, I'm thinking she probably has never seen a Black person
Yeah.
there in the store, so she literally she was the brave one who touched me. But I found that once they knew how my years of experience, in the field, and there was a lot of respect. They respect knowledge. They respect a person of a particular age. So that I definitely got a lot of that. I'm still friends with some of them on Facebook. Saudi was the same thing. We had contracts. And it was the same thing in Saudi Arabia. I was walking through one of the institutions, and I think they thought like I was supposed to be carrying the bags or supposed to be. And I remember one woman looking at me, like really staring, watching me. And as you could see the wonderment in her face, like who is this? Why is she not in a particular position, but again, I trained there for about a month, and once you have the knowledge, the respect is there. I got some pushback from the men, but the respect was there. And I ran groups and showed them. I didn't just teach them, I showed them how to interact with, how to teach a group of people with cognitive disabilities, how to do for themselves. And even more so, I believe the respect was there.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You've been really impacting the globe. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back to Pathway to Success.
Did you pick out this detergent all by yourself? So cute.
It's half the size and it's half the plastic. And there's nothing cute about unnecessary plastic. Christy, the average person generates over 200 pounds of plastic a year. And there are 329 million of us in the US alone.
Do you want paper or paper? Yeah.
7th generation Easy Dose laundry detergent. Half the size, half the plastic, all the clean.
So where were we?
The playoff.
Oh, yes. Only a handful of teams remained, hailing from kingdoms far and wide across the college football land, all vying for a spot in the playoffs. Each team led by a great coach, fearless players, and defended by the loyalist of fans. Soon, they would take part in an epic playoff battle for the right to call themselves national champions. And to the victor go the spoils, a beautiful trophy, a grand celebration, and bragging rights that stand the test of time.
And then what happened?
We'll find out soon.
Ready? All clear. 517 gas control. Come on out.
Chewie.
You know what's going on?
This ship is now under the command of the First Order.
Live your Star Wars story in a new 2-night adventure.
You know what I've come for.
Only at Walt Disney World Resort.
Welcome back to Pathway to Success with Consuelo Amando. Did I got the name right?
Consuelo. It's like a sway.
Consuelo.
Yes,
Like a
yes,
samba dance.
yes.
And she's the only Jamaican, and I was born in Jamaica, that I've ever heard with this beautiful name. And she was giving me a little history about it backstage. But you are a transformational speaker wherever you go. What are the core messages really, or themes that you aim to convey to your audiences wherever you go?
One of the most important things is being one's authentic self. I'm finding that, especially today, there are a lot of people who don't know who they are. We're in a selfie world and people are always taking selfies, but who are they? And because there is a lack of knowing one's identity, then one is more easily swayed by what society says. They're more moved by what society says. And so one of my core things, my core messages is know yourself and love yourself. A lot of times the people who don't love, accept yourself. You don't have to be like everybody else. You are unique and you're uniquely beautiful. Find that and invest in that and celebrate that. You don't need someone to celebrate you. You celebrate you and stand in that strength. The strength of that person who you are, the strength of being a Black person. I'm very passionate about immigrants, that when we come here, we know the pride that we come with and we celebrate that pride because we're awesome people, but just people in general. Be your authentic self. Keep on learning. Never stop learning. Never stop learning. It is so important that you're finding information out for yourself. Learn how to be. There's this thing about being your better self. But first, you have to know who you are. Who is that self? So a lot of the work that I do is in helping people to find their authentic self and exist in that. If you want to wear locks and nobody else is wearing locks, wear it anyway. Don't just do what other people are doing blindly, because when it changes, then you change and you are clueless as to who you are. So when trials come, what do you stand on? Who are you? Right? You got to know who you are and have that firm foundation.
Well, the Rastafarian religion indicates, well, it's a show up wearing dreadlocks, right? But you're from Jamaica. It's a religion that was created in Jamaica. How do you deal with a person who they have no hair on their head?
Your hair doesn't make you. It's just
They come to me
your
and say
hair.
they're Rasta.
Your hair is an expression of your sexuality. So if you choose to wear no hair, then
Well,
that's still an expression of your sexuality.
yes, it is. But on a religious section with the Rastafarian, a person approached me and said they're Rasta and they're totally bald headed. It's kind of it's kind of
The
conflicting
belief,
for us.
maybe it's certain concepts about the belief that they like. Here's the thing: if somebody tells me they're a Rasta and they have no hair on their head, I'm gonna say, okay, great.
But I said the same thing, great, but I was born in Jamaica, so let me it kind of filter through that one.
I don't, because you know what? Sometimes people can take you down that rabbit hole with them, and I'm not going down there with them. You are a Rasta. That's what you believe. Good for you.
I like that. But you also, I want to share some insight into your work as an intimacy coach. Now, that an intimacy coach, explain what that is. Explain, because I said, what?
I am a certified sex educator. I'm a sex therapist. And so,
Really?
yes. And, people often think I don't help people to have sex. That's not what it's about.
Oh, thank you for clearing that up for everybody that's watching. What?
I'll tell you where it started. It actually started, I did passion parties, those parties where like and the reason that I really did it was because I found that a lot of women did not know themselves. They didn't know their own bodies. They didn't know what pleased them. And what I felt was that I needed to educate women on their own bodies so they can advocate for themselves. Because, I come from a place where whatever the guy says goes. And I would hear women talking about being with their partners, and then afterwards they weren't satisfied. And I said, well, why? Two people in the act, why are two people not satisfied? It can't just be one person.
Right.
That's kind of where it started from. A lot of times in my work as an intimacy coach, it's not even about sex. It's about communication. It's a lack of communication. It's a lack of connection. And when communication breaks down, my pastor always says, when communication breaks down, then there's error, right? When you're not communicating, then how are you connecting? Intimacy isn't necessarily sex. You can have sex and no intimacy. Sex is an act. Sex is a physical act. In fact, there's a definition of sexuality where the biological part, it says sex is genital activity. Because you can have sex with somebody and you don't know their name, you don't know where they come from, you don't know if you're going to see them again. It can still be mind blowing. That's just sex. We put a whole bunch of stuff on sex, and there's a lot that comes before that. It's the intimacy that lasts. Sometimes the body breaks down and doesn't function, but it's the intimacy that lasts, and it's the intimacy that needs to be developed and worked on.
That's powerful. You said that's for us. Oh, you explained it. Um, wow, I have to thank God I've never had sex with somebody and don't know their name, don't know my name. That would have been really something that
It
really.
happens all the time. Tinder, swipe, you don't even know if that's the right person's name. One night stands, it happens all the time. We put the connection to it, and that is one of the reasons why often it's know the person before you get physically involved, because once you get physically involved, it skews things, right? Because once that happens, you're going to gloss over all those little things, the things in your gut that you spoke about, the little red flags. You're going to gloss over it, because all those endorphins and all the stuff that made you feel good, that's what you're going to remember. And then 3 years, 4 years into it, and you cannot deny the things that you felt from the very get-go.
Wow, that's powerful. You have been featured in various publications, including Broadly Vice magazine, the Atlantic magazine also. What topics did you discuss in these features in these magazines, and how do you that relate to your professional mission?
In Broadly Vice, it was on curriculum, so it was on sexuality, teaching sexuality to people with intellectual disabilities and children and families. So it was specifically about a curriculum and developing curriculum. In the Atlantic, it was again about sexuality, but um, I run a group for people with autism on the autism spectrum, where we're teaching dating skills and sexuality skills and helping them in social skills, and also in knowing the knowledge about consent and how to be consenting and how to advocate for themselves. So that was what both were about.
It's amazing you're Jamaican because I've always said to people that Jamaica is a beautiful place, a very sexual place.
Oh,
I love
yes.
to find a Jamaican therapist who really coach in that era. That's new to me because most of the persons that I may have watched television and see are normally from the other race.
Well, I think there are quite a few of us that's out there. And you just got to believe in what you're doing.
Mhm.
You're right. Jamaicans, I remember once I was home, I was in my sister's kitchen and I was thinking, everything about Jamaica is sexy. The songs, the food, everything is an aphrodisiac. Every single thing is sexy. It is no wonder this place is like this. And then we're sexy people, but
Mhm.
here's the thing. Yet we don't talk about it. We don't speak to our children about it. We make them have to discover it. We don't speak to each other about it, right? Why is it? And it's not just there, but why is it always spoken in a negative way? There's so many. I can tell you this, and this is not even the popular thing. There's so many women I've seen. They spin on the head top, they swing from the chandelier, they jump and prance and roll about and have their head hitting up on the backboard,
Mhm.
and yet do not have an orgasm.
Wow.
And
All of that, doing all
all
of
of that and still none. And the thing is, again, because they're following what society says instead of taking the time to learn their bodies, speak to their partners, and make sure that they're both satisfied. Or they do all of this drama and then they go in the bathroom to satisfy themselves. Why? This was still where I came from. Why are women doing this? And why aren't women talking to their partners, having a conversation? Because there's some men who don't want to hear it, but it's a situation where people need to talk about it. We need to talk about sex. We need to talk about what satisfies us. We need to debunk the myths that's out there about anaconda and who and you can't. I heard a young woman say she can't, she's not okay if she can't walk the next morning. Okay, good for you, but that doesn't mean that that's the case for everybody else, or you should think that. Is that we need to have honest conversations about sex, and we don't.
wow, that's powerful. I gotta invite you in for part two on pathway to success because you're opening a whole different topic, which I know a lot of persons would love to be educated on because what you're saying is so true. I mean, a lot of times, even from out of our island where we're from, we don't discuss this much.
We don't. And you know who else don't talk about sex? Christians. I'm a
Oh,
Christian, just finished seminary. We don't talk about it. Married couples don't talk about it. Single people don't talk about it. And we know that it is something that is a big challenge for us. And within marriages, I've done marriage seminaries, some marriage conferences, retreats, whatever. And there are challenges happening in Christian families, but nobody wants to talk about it.
yeah. One of the two things Christians don't like to hear discussed in a church service is sex and money. But that's sex and money. They don't want to hear two of those things, which is so very vital in our life. But congratulations on your recent graduation from seminary.
Thank you.
And how has this influenced your approach now to mental health care?
Well, I'll tell you this. When two things before I started seminary. One, and both of them made me see that my vocation was also my calling. And I've had many questions along the way. And what seminary did was to connect dots for me to see that. And what I wrote my just go with what I wrote my capstone on is that we say things. We can recite a lot of scripture, right? Let this mind be in you that's also in Christ. What does that mean? We say a lot of things, but what does it mean? It does begin in the mind. It begins with our thoughts. It's not okay to just say this is a bad thought. How do I change my thoughts? How do I change my thinking? And as a mental health clinician, as a cognitive behavioral therapist, I know that it starts in the thoughts. If you can change the thinking, you change the feeling, that changes the behavior, that changes the habit, that changes the character. So it starts in the mind. And how do we help with in changing that mind? It's in by using those spiritual disciplines, right? Replacing that thought with a scripture. We have no control over what comes in our minds, but we have every control about what stays.
I like that. That's very powerful. Very powerful. Well said. Can you elaborate on your work as an agency representative to the United Nations? Congratulations on that one again. Economic
Thank
and
you.
Social Council.
Thank you. As a part of, I'm a part of the team from my agency from YI, and so when different events happen at the UN. I've spoken at different side events where we've gone in to help with deinstitutionalization. Again, there's some countries that still have people with disabilities in institutions. And we have so many different ways that we have people out in communities. So I've gone to speak there, speaking specifically about that. Being available to speak. There was a tour that came through from some nations in Africa, but just being able to go in and talk about the work that the agency has done, we have done with people with disabilities, often around the area of sexuality and other areas, just about people living on their own, about um, how people learn and how to teach them. Because you can tell somebody something that's different from teaching somebody something, right? And anything, it doesn't matter what technique you have. Once you're working with somebody with a cognitive disability, it has to be adapted. And that's what we do. We can help because I can guarantee because I've done it, in that they can learn and they can learn well. It's all about how to teach. So often it's in those capacities that we're working with the UN or doing side events where we're teaching other nations about what we have been doing that's been successful.
Can you share an example of a situation where you have helped a client mental health challenges while incorporating your faith or spirituality also?
Hmm. Well, there are two different times. In once, I don't usually have anything around my office because in my office it's not a Christian environment, right? And so I don't. And I remember a young man who his diagnosis was depression and he wanted to curse and he started and then he said, "I'm not gonna curse around you, Miss Connie." And I said, "Okay, why is that?" He said, "You're a Christian." I said, Who told you?" He said, "I know you're a Christian." And different times when we're talking, I said to him, "Well, where do you go for solace, or if you want to just de-stress outside of the alcohol, where else can you go?" And he said, "Well, I used to go to church a long time ago, and I was growing up a Catholic." And I remember saying to him, "Have you ever thought about just praying?" It's never me forcing anything on anyone. It's I think something that they recognize, and me saying, to I've never prayed with anybody. I've had a patient who asked me to pray with them, and yes, I did, because they asked. I've had patients who may have been another, denomination, Jehovah's Witness. I'm able to support them and help them to understand that I am also religious, not that denomination, but I understand how important her faith is to her, which then allowed us to work better together. And I never told her, it's not about me saying what she's supposed to do or not, but her understanding that I was also a woman of faith, I believe helped her to feel comfortable enough for us to work together.
As someone with experience, extensive experience in mental health, what advice would you give to aspiring um, clinicians or educators in the field, especially those who are interested in working with individuals in neurodevelopmental disabilities?
The first thing I would say is to make sure that you want to do it. Make sure that you have a passion for it. This is not an area where you're just going in to figure out a way to make money. Have a passion for it. Continue learn, never stop learning, because you're talking about people, and I believe that when you're working with people, you want to know as best as you can about them emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, about the individual. um, get all the certifications. If you can find a niche, there's a particular area you like, go for it. You know, go as far as you can in learning about it. Learn from each other, from different people. But the if you just stick by yourself, it's not a healthy thing. Go out there and learn. Ask questions. Find something that you don't agree with and learn about it, because it's either going to help you to change your mind, or it's going to confirm why you don't like it, but you'll be more knowledgeable about it.
Where do you see yourself? It's such a great illustrative career. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Whew, I wish I could say totally retired. That would be my dream.
But with
But
all your achievements, we were just, I'm sure the producer was doing the calculation back there. I was calculating, you've been to Saudi Arabia, you've been to, I guess they were just calculating that's a couple of millions by this.
listen, I'm taking that and your ears to God, your mouth to God ears. Um, I really want to go more into consulting. I just started not just started, a couple years, started a um, travel agency, and because I love to travel, and I figure, hey, why not travel and make money at the same time, right? I'm Jamaican. I'm supposed to have 20 jobs. I'm the clinician, the teacher, the educator, the therapist, all of them, right? But I just started that, and I'm hoping to build that in more, and then consulting. I love traveling. I would love to travel more. So not my 9 to 5, actually. I don't know if anybody here is like from my 9 to 5, but actually to have to consult with them and be able to travel more and meet more people and do more teaching and training. There's a lot that I've learned, and I believe that there's a lot to give. And I believe that God has gifted me with a particular way to talk about challenging topics, such as sexuality, such as grief and loss and trauma, end of life care. And so I'm hoping to be doing more of that, more consulting, more traveling, building my businesses, and having that home over in Florida, and the one in Jamaica, and
Welcome to West
occasionally
Palm
in
Beach.
New York. No, West Palm Beach, to be
Yeah,
specific.
West Palm
Yes.
Beach.
Yeah.
That's where your fellow Jamaican is, right here in West Palm Beach. So I welcome you from Hurley right here to West Palm Beach, New York. And then who knows, you can come on and do a show, The Love Zone. Uh,
Ooh,
that would be great. I mean, imagine.
it will be great. Let me tell you something. The sky's the limit. And I am open to whatever it is that God created me to do on this earth to help his people, all his people. And so 5 years, I just want to still be learning, still be helping, and making a whole lot of money. That's where I want to see myself in 5 years.
And I see you as a great winner. I'm sure you'll be doing much more than that, maybe a documentary, all
Yes.
of these things,
Writing my books.
writing your books so I can get a copy of it also signed. I don't even have to worry. I can travel through my traveling your travel agents without paying a dollar. I can, well, she looked me up. She's Jamaican. She do it. But it was great having you on Pathway to Success. You have really inspired us with your story of success. You've
Thank
taken us
you.
on a great ride, and I'm very proud coming from Jamaica, man. You're keeping the flag high. You have achieved so much and look so young. Not
I am
even
young. I'm 55 years young.
55 years. So we're the same age group. No, everybody knows my age group. Oh my God. I gotta keep that going out. You don't look it. I mean, what's the secret? Praying all day?
I don't, no, not all day. Let me tell you what, bacon. No.
What you do for fun? Now, like when you're in mental health, what you do for fun? I want to ask that because do you do
For
anything for fun?
fun.
Well, I know you talk about traveling, but
You know what it is? As much as and I've been better at it. There was a time I really wasn't that good at it. I am better at it, especially having some health issues. Some health issues is really slowing me down. But I have a daily way of decompressing, a weekly way of decompressing, and then a quarterly way of decompressing. Which is very important. Then I have church. My church family, my church sisters. I The young ladies I pray with, I love them. And then I have a group of crazy Myconians who call themselves the sleepless weekend or weekend sleep. I don't know, sleepless in there somewhere. But we've been friends since '86. We're still together. We still meet up. And they also keep me laughing. I'm hoping that some of them are on tonight. But big up sleepless crew. Um, doing it with our mites, but just yes, yes, big up every time. Because when we get together, it's as if we were still on Michael campus, on the lazy bench, sitting down, chatting or down on Glen Owen Hall. McCann Mills Hall, Glen Owen Hall, to all the Lushites out there, Lushington
wow.
Road. But yeah, so it's about the people who are around you. I'm very Over the years I've been very intentional about who I allow into my space, my close space. I have acquaintances and I have friends, but I who has that particular access to me, I have reduced it so that the people who are closest to me are people who I know honestly and genuinely can support me and want good for me. But then I do things like I rest my brain. So I watch crazy shows like Columbo, Matlock, Murder She Wrote, Golden Girls. And I literally will have a glass of Moscato and watch those shows, and it rests my brain. I don't have to think. I
You're,
laugh.
you're watching those old-fashioned, old show that I would
Yes.
watch with my mother. My
Yes.
father is not here on the earth today. What about,
Yes, because they're
what about Three's
fun.
Company? That's more funny.
No, I like Murder She Wrote. I kind of like the mystery thing. And then I have a few YouTube channels that I watch that makes it fun. The Jamaican ones that
Hmm.
makes me laugh. So I do things that make me laugh. Laughter helps to rejuvenate. But I'm gonna leave with this as a because it's important. Self-care is important. Self-care is not selfish. And every day, my shower is my spa. I like oils, mineral oils, and I will drop oils in the water. So this bathroom is eucalyptus oil I love, and I have that in the shower. So it's literally like a spa, and it just rejuvenates. And then on Saturdays, my rest day, and I only do what my body tells me to do. So if my body said get up, I get up. If my body said don't get up, I don't get up. Literally, whatever I want to eat, I eat that day. And then I try every 4 months or so to go to do something, go away, see water, something like that. And that's probably when there is something down in Fort Lauderdale that the
So everybody
sleepless
said
crew.
Florida, West Palm Beach.
No, but it's Fort Lauderdale. The sleepless crew is Fort Lauderdale and Atlanta. So
They'll flow over to West Palm Beach, believe me. I'll get them here. But I want to thank you for taking time out to share with us today. And in parting, you can achieve all things because there's a gift on the inside of you. All you need to do is explore what that gift is and make it work. Step out of the pond and step into the ocean. Have a great week.
awesome.